Hi, I'm Lauren Bryant, twin mum, event host, and award-winning small business specialist with a background in automotive and finance. I'm coming up to 10 years of Powerhouse, where I've helped hundreds of women streamline and scale their business. The greatest thing I've built, though, is an incredible community through my events, the Brunch Club. In over 70 live events, I've created thousands of connections and raised tens of thousands of dollars for charity. Most of all, I created a no-pressure networking space for women to feel seen, heard, and supported. This podcast is an extension of that, where I can share what I've learned, bring amazing speakers to share their story, and keep living the Powerhouse values: community, empowerment, and education. If you are an ambitious woman in business, welcome. This is for you. Welcome back to the podcast. Today, I have the wonderful Caroline Bellenger, who is a multi-award-winning business coach, an elite athlete, and a powerhouse of resilience. Thank you for joining me today.
Thanks, Laura. Lovely to be here. Excited to share with the audience.
Lovely. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about yourself for those of us who don't know you very well yet?
Yes, I've had an interesting story. So essentially, my story started from childhood sexual abuse is probably, the basis of it. And then 20 years of addiction and mental illness. And getting sober 16 years ago was the pivotal moment that I started focusing on my own self-worth. And from that, I've gone on to, through, lots of entrepreneurial things and corporate work, to develop a passion for like well-being and people and women and just, living the best life we can, but without all the bullshit, I guess I'd call it. So I've owned gyms, I've been a business coach, an athlete, hiked Everest Base Camp. I've done lots of amazing things, but what I find is that we're all seeking stuff outside of ourselves. And so I'm really passionate about finding that inner happiness and positivity within people.
That's amazing. Do you see self-worth coming up in your work often with people?
Oh, absolutely. And I think more so with women. Like I've business coached thousands of different clients, but I think it's definitely something I see a lot more in women. And whether that's, I studied social science, so I'm very much about the structural limitations we have that then define us. And I think for women, we've been placed in a box for a long time. And so therefore for women, it is just that little bit harder to believe in themselves because they've been taught for a long time not to.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. What do you think that mental shift is that's required to stop letting your past sort of dictate what we're going to do in the future and how we see ourselves and our self-worth?
I think, I always come back to be kind to yourself. I think we all put so much pressure on ourselves to be something. And often again, like I go, we get, what I've seen is people get caught up in the idea of what they're supposed to be, not what truly makes them happy. And I know when I was coaching, I'd be coaching multi-million-dollar companies or startups. And actually, everyone's the same in the context that they're searching for something that keeps them happy. And for some people, it was the $1 million business. But for many people, the $1 million business wasn't really what they wanted. They just thought they wanted that because everyone else wanted that. So I think it's about, knowing your values. I do a lot of work with people on like, well, what are your core values? Because that's going to tell you what really is going to make you happy.
Yeah. That's amazing. And with your mindset work and the things that you do around self-worth and all of that sort of stuff, how did that help you do things like hike the Mount Everest Base Camp? And I know that you're a triathlete and, you've competed for Australia and all of these amazing things. How does that play into all of that for you?
Okay, so that would be where I found that mind-body connection and the importance of that. So when I got sober, it was the first 2 years of being sober was, whoo, I was like very unhinged. You know, I had all these emotions and no idea what to do with them. Even the happy emotions were way above, you know, it was just in my brain was just chaotic. So I'd always played sport right through my addiction. And as a child, netball, basketball, hockey, ran, but I was never really good at anything. It was part of my life growing up, I guess, country kid. So that's what you did. So I started running. That was my first thing. And it took me a little while. It took me a long time to even become a runner. But what I found over time was I would leave the house cranky and stressed, and I would come back feeling quite relaxed. And even my son, to a point when he was 11, used to say to me, he'd look at me and go, "Hey, Mum, why don't you go for a run?" And I'd be like, "Oh, okay." They say children are our best teachers. So, and what I realized was it really did shift my whole state. Any time I would exercise, and even exercise might be just going outside and getting in nature and going for a walk, that the physical change and the mental and emotional change is so interlinked.
Mm.
And when we start feeling good physically, we actually start feeling good self-worth. And then exercise, I'd set little goals with the exercise. So that was all that, you know, every time we achieve a small goal, we build self-worth.
Mm-hmm.
Until it became big goals like competing for Australia in triathlon. Yeah.
That is certainly a big goal and
Yeah.
audacious. I think the definition of audacious.
Yes.
I want to touch on the sobriety thing because in Australia, we have a bit of a drinking culture, especially when you're talking about like 20 years ago, we weren't really around the idea that we have a drinking culture and how I want to talk about how that process was for you. I can imagine that going from drinking to being sober, there's losses involved. Obviously, there's gains in so many of it. And congratulations on 20 years of being sober is absolutely incredible. Can you talk me through what you experienced in that process? What did you lose? What did you gain? How did people receive you? What was that like?
So, and that went along with the mental health stuff at the start,
Mm-hmm.
because what I found was everything revolved around alcohol. If I went to someone's, had a baby shower, there'd be alcohol. First birthday, there'd be alcohol. Out for dinner, alcohol. Events, alcohol. So I actually, for the first 2 years, became a little bit isolated socially because I would go to events and there was this constant pressure of, "Oh, have a drink, Caroline. Why aren't you drinking, Caroline? Oh, have another. Oh, you should drink. Oh, have more fun. You'd be more fun if you were drinking." All of that, to the point, the funniest thing was eventually when I started going out more, I found that when I'd say to people, I'd get so frustrated, I'd just say, "I can't, I'm an alcoholic." And they would like go, "Oh my God." But you know what? Then they would tell me all their, because half of them would be drunk. Then they tell me how they think that maybe they've got a problem with alcohol. So they'd stop actually seeing if I wanted to drink. So it was the best way to stop people putting the pressure on me. And it actually opened up lots of really good conversations. And what I realized, people only want you to drink because they are uncomfortable about their own drinking.
Yes.
It's got nothing to do with you not drinking. And look, I see it in my son's 24 now, and I see it in his generation. He goes out heaps and doesn't drink, and no one even bats an eyelid. And I love that for them because, yeah,
Yes.
you know, I think even now as an older person, we don't necessarily get that from our peers still. You know, it's still seen as, "Oh, there's something wrong with you if you don't drink."
Mm.
So that was definitely a challenge. And yeah, look, to be fair, getting sober, I resented it at the start. I resented all the things I thought I was missing. And it wasn't until over time with the exercise, with being able to drive home at 9 o'clock when everyone else was drunk. I just got the 9, 10 o'clock theory. I'd be like, yep, time to go. That I'd wake up good in the morning. And it took, I'm going to say it took 10 years though to really build to a point where now personally I go, oh my God, I am the luckiest person in the world not to drink. I go like, I haven't given up anything really. I have gained so much, whether it's health, whether it's money, whether it's just, again, self-worth. And I think that was part of the self-worth because for the longer period that I stopped drinking, the more, it was challenging because I had to deal with shit. And then that's the hard part. You actually then have to deal with shit. But because I had to deal with shit without alcohol, I actually got through stuff quicker and easier. And then I realized, alcohol only ever delayed that personal growth or delayed the really negative outcomes. When you're sober, yeah, there's negative outcomes in life and you just get over and done with quicker than when you drink and try and, just hide it all down. So, yeah, I'm so passionate now that there is nothing alcohol could give me now that I don't get in spades in my own life. So I have this like weird thing about alcohol. I don't even understand now why people drink.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure that you start a lot of these conversations by being so open about your journey. You do strike me as that very abrupt and straight to the point type of person. So do you find that people tend to speak to you a bit more openly about the things going on in their lives or in their past that might be holding them back while they're trying to scale businesses or take on a triathlon or whatever their goal is? Do you find that people are quite open with you because of your openness and acceptance of everything that's gone on for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think, and again, in a selfish way, that's helped me too, because, I've learned that, when the voices in my head have nowhere to go, they can become quite destructive. But the minute I verbalize something, and there's psychology around that. Once we get from our head out, I've had friends where I'd be on the phone and go, after a while of me ranting and raving, I'd be like, oh yeah, that sounds really insane, doesn't it? And they go, oh yeah. I go, okay, I can work on that now. But so I've learned that my honesty just allows people to go, do you know what? None of us are perfect. And, we fuck up all the time. And that's actually okay. And we don't have to be good at things. Like when it comes to business, I go like, I'm terrible at sales, and I can do sales and I've learned the skills, but is it my genius zone? Is it something that comes easy? Absolutely not. If I didn't have to do it for business, would I do it? No. Can I read a map, give directions? No. And no amount of trying is going to make me better at that. So having that humility to go, hey, I'm really bad at that. Maybe I'll, get someone else to do it or I'll find another way. Because I think we live in this, especially with social media. Everyone thinks that everyone else has got their shit together.
Yes.
and I can, and I can tell you from coaching some very successful people, and they're successful in their own right, but very few of them have their shit perfectly together. And where they may succeed in one area, they've got challenges in other area. And that's okay, because that's life. Like, it's just life. There is no easy way through it.
Yes. It is the blessing and curse of social media. There's a bit of a toxic highlight reel that everybody feels that they need to compare themselves to. It's not the full picture.
No.
And when we're talking about someone who is in that position where they're struggling with their own business, they're trying to scale, they're struggling with the shitty things going on in their brain, they're not verbalizing them, what strategies do you give them to help overcome that? And what advice do you give someone that is struggling to scale and get past their own shit to break through, to overcome that?
I'm a huge believer in it's 20% strategy, 80% inner work. And again, this is what I've worked, for a national company, very successful in strategy and all of that, which is brilliant. But if you can't get your own stuff going, you're constantly going to have hurdles. And I used to have a gym just before COVID, but that's a whole nother story. And again, it's even from same analogy as business is in weight loss. Because I used to say to these women, if you don't like yourself, guess what? You're not going to lose weight. And it doesn't matter how many diets you go on, doesn't matter how many times you come to the gym. Yeah, there might be periods of time where you'll lose a bit of weight or feel better, but it won't last because it won't be sustainable. And business is the same. You'll have your successes in business intermittently if you use great strategies. But if you're not doing the inner work, and that's meditation, exercise, just non-stressing, doing fun, having fun. That's a big one for me. Just have fun can be an out. You'll have those success, but then when something goes wrong, you won't cope, and then it'll fall down quickly. So I'm always looking at what's the long-term strategy that you want. And sometimes in business, it's better to go a bit slower and have that balance. Like people talk about you can't have balance. And I go, yeah, and I tend to call bullshit on that. I said, you can have whatever you want to have, really. And yes, there'll be times where you might have to work a bit harder in your business or put a bit more in. But don't ever lose sight of your well-being being the most important thing you're bringing to your business.
Yes. I think for a lot of people, without them, there is actually no business.
No.
Are there some labels that the women that you're working with in business tend to place on themselves, and that's halting their growth?
I actually have a keynote called Limited by Labels. So
beautiful.
Yeah. And I see this across the board and that. So, and I learned this one day. I did 6 months rehab residential, and then I was doing AA for about 18 months. But I actually found AA quite toxic and negative and a bit boring. But anyway, so I found running. I traded AA for running. But because when I used to get up there, and for anyone who hasn't been to an AA meeting, you get up and you identify and say, hi, I'm Caroline, I'm an alcoholic. Right? And then you say whatever you have to say for that meeting. And after a while, that used to really get to me because I'd get up and I'd say it. And in my head, I'd be going, yeah, but Caroline, you're a mother, you're an employee, you're a sister, a daughter, you're all these other things, an athlete. Why are you just getting up there and identifying just as an alcoholic? And what I saw then was all these people staying in this alcoholic mindset because that's what they identified with. And what I've seen recently over the last few years, and some people are just going to dish me for this, but anyway, is menopausal, ADHD, too empathetic, all these labels, which I get, and we do have conditions, I'll call them conditions that we have to manage in our life. But what I've seen over time is people using these labels to say, oh my God, I'm perimenopausal, I can't lose weight. You know, well, yeah, you can lose weight if you're perimenopausal. It doesn't define who you are. And I, recently I've heard a lot of women my age in their 50s identifying late-term ADHD, and they've been diagnosed with that. And I'm an advocate for mental health. I've worked for the Black Dog Institute. Mental health is my huge platform. But there's a limit between acknowledging our conditions and labeling our conditions and becoming that.
Yeah.
And I see it being a bit trendy to become that. And it's literally not doing you any favors. for the women out there, it's not doing you any favors. Yes, acknowledge it, work out how you can correct the behaviors that maybe are unhealthy because of that, and be okay with it. You know, I'm okay that I'm an alcoholic, I'm a bit OCD, on the spectrum, all sorts of things. Okay, that's me. I'm okay with that, but I try not to let that stop me doing anything.
Fabulous.
Yeah. And I come back to like Louise Hay. And I say, like, Louise, I don't know if you've heard of Louise Hay. Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So she's stood the test of time, you know, and she was all about the I am statements. And I like to say, like, Louise Hay would be rolling in her grave with all these negative, I am perimenopausal, I am ADHD, I am an alcoholic, I am. And so I say to people, like, yeah, try and define yourself in a positive. I am, you know, even if you've got ADHD and you're perimenopausal and you're struggling, say, yeah, but I'm a beautiful person. Yes, I'm a capable human. I'm a good person. I'm a kind person. I'm doing the best I can. Like, redefine and focus on those positive parts of our being rather than, you know, limiting ourselves by the label we give.
That sounds like a very important skill to have in your toolkit.
Yes.
For resilience and life in general.
Yes. Yeah.
When we're talking about discipline, how do you feel that discipline comes into business and being an elite athlete and mindset and just getting out of ruts, such as being overweight, drinking too much, mental health issues that we've all had?
Oh,
there's nothing wrong with that. But how do you feel that the discipline actually plays a part in that recovery or that expansion?
Yeah. So, and again, I would come back to, for me, is knowing my why and also understanding the consequences. So for me, I like go, if I was to pick up a drink tomorrow, I could probably be dead in a week. Okay, that's a good reason not to drink. So always, you know, humans are more motivated by fear and pain than they are motivated by celebration and reward. We tend to think oh, if I do this, I'll get a new handbag, or if I do this, I'll go on a holiday, that's enough motivation. But it's actually the opposite. It's actually saying, if I don't do this, I am going to be unhealthy and I won't be able to have time to spend with my children. I won't be able to do this with them. That's how the brain works. So I think it's about identifying what's important to you. And if you don't have discipline, how that is going to negatively impact your life. And that's a 101 sales marketing tool, psychology, really. But I think that's, again, discipline is about doing something regularly. And I always say, if you want to get up, say you're disciplined, you want to get up earlier. Don't go from like 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the morning. Go from 8 o'clock to 7:45. Do that until you're happy with 7:45, then move it. Like, I think it's that, you know, again, that instant gratification. We want it fixed and we want it now. And, you know, I'm the first to say, like, no, the phone, everything. Like, we've got everything at our fingertips. But just because we have it doesn't mean we should use it. Yeah. So, again, what's long-term sustainable for you? You know, when I started running and to become, like I said, world champion athlete, I literally started with a 100-meter run, 100-meter walk, 100-meter run, 100-meter walk. And then, you know, I built that up over a year to running a 5K. And that's
pretty incredible.
Yeah. But consistency will beat intensity every single time. So what can you do? If you can only, you know, if you want to do mindfulness or meditation, find 5 minutes for the day. Just set that time aside. And be kind to yourself again. I always come back to, like, you know, I call life one meltdown at a time. Because there will always be a meltdown. And same, when I have a meltdown, if I don't get things wrong, I don't beat myself up. I go, okay, start again tomorrow. That's okay. But if today you want to sit on the couch, eat copious amounts of chocolate, watch a teary movie in fetal position and swear your head off, go and do that for today. That's okay. Part of the journey.
For sure. I call that a doona day.
A doona day, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
I have had my own mental health struggles in the past and PTSD and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And some days you wake up and you go, oh, today is just not it. And I know all of the shoulds and I should be doing this and that and something else. And I've got all of these meetings and all this work. But my mind and my body just go, no, it's time out. It is time for the teary movie and the doona and to be comfortable and just love on yourself a little bit and go on. And that's why I call it a doona day, because typically before children anyway, I would cuddle up on the couch in my doona and that was my safe space. So I am all on board for just taking a day, and then you can come back tomorrow and things are better. It just is, because you give yourself that little bit of space and you deserve the space. Let's be serious.
Yeah, absolutely.
People are so high functioning.
Oh, and that's, I think, like I said, and again, I look at, very much call myself a feminist. But I also understand that whole movement in the early 80s, where it was more, you can have the family, you can have the work, and you can do all of this all at once and do it perfectly. Because I think that was the thing. I go, yeah, no, you probably can't.
No.
Some people, some women can. And I think this is another thing which is really interesting. It's a bit like, the number, and I look at me, and I always outline a lot of people who are successful who've come from a really hard upbringing, and especially when I work in addiction and things like that. And people go, oh, but look at you, if Caroline can do it, everyone can do it. I go, no, they can't. Because I also know with addiction, only 10% stay sober or get out of addiction. Only 10, and that's using all the tools we currently have in the world. Only 10% will succeed.
That's incredible. Those are scary numbers.
Yeah, and it's the same, like the multi-million-dollar CEO who came from a broken home is the 1 in 10 million story. But that's the story we hear all the time.
Yeah.
We don't hear about all the other millionaires who just had a normal life and had, a nice upbringing and got supported and all of that, who made success, because there's a lot more of those.
Yeah.
But we don't hear that.
Good news isn't so easy to sell. It's not so sexy.
No. Exactly.
Which doesn't mean it's not important.
Oh. No, and everyone's got a story, and I think everyone's journey is really important, because what's challenging to me may be easy for someone else, and what's easy for me might be challenging for someone else. And so, don't diminish your own challenge, because your own challenge is your challenge, and it's as important as someone else who's had, a horrific challenge, because our brain doesn't perceive what it is, it perceives how it affects us.
I know that you do a lot of work with leaders and in corporate culture and all of that sort of stuff. Is this something that you need to teach people within the workplace, how to look after the different types of people and the different types of backgrounds? Is empathy something that you come across often, or do you have to kind of give them the frameworks to be a bit more empathetic in the workspace and be able to lead that culture?
Yeah, look, this is one thing I'm really passionate about, and that's through my own toxic experience in corporate and in a couple of workplaces. Like it comes around to it's been like an ongoing thing, and that's probably why I'm so passionate about it. But yeah, I talk about like leading with kindness, and in the concept of, again, I would say social structures have made it so that often the more toxic, aggressive person becomes the leader. We're sort of set up for that. However, it has such real world consequences. And when you run a business, your employees are your business. And you need to be able to bring them along the journey with you. And you're always going to have different people. Like I'm if you haven't guessed yet, I'm very much a D. Dot point me, just get it done, and then come back to me when it's finished. I'm good. But I know if I've got someone who's more social, I've got to spend my 10 minutes in the morning having a chit chat about their weekend because that fills their cup. So it's about understanding and I always look at it, how do we get the best out of everyone? And again, what I see probably the most is the leaders that don't get the best out of their staff or employees or their clients are the ones who haven't done the work on themselves. Because most of them are not ego-driven and confident because they got good self-worth. It's the opposite. They're insecure and they therefore take out their insecurity on everyone else around them. And unfortunately, like a lot of workplaces, still lean towards that type of leadership. But I think it's becoming, again, something where people are understanding that your culture that you have needs to support everyone. And because I actually love the Gen Zs. I'm going to call them the Gen Zs or the millennials. I'm not sure which one it is, but the ones that go, oh, I quit because you're not treating me very well. And I go, good on you. I go, good on you, because no one should have to tolerate that in a workplace. And I think that's actually making the shift in management, are going, oh, well, we have to maybe be a bit nicer and a bit more empathetic as leaders just to keep and retain staff.
It is very expensive not to keep your staff.
Yeah. And that's why I don't understand.
Recruiting and training is insane.
Yeah, yes. The cost factor of losing staff or not having happy staff. This is where I go, to me, it's should be simple to understand that if you look after your staff, that you're going to have productivity and profit. No brainer. But again, when you have an insecure leader, it's all about them. So they don't see that.
You do tend to have a bad apple somewhere in there, and it can ruin a whole place. The morale can be just bottomed out, and it's really hard to fix when it gets to that point. Are there some first steps for a leader who sees that their team is the morale is down and the productivity is down, profitability is also taking a hit? Is there some first steps that the leader needs to take to reset that and try and pull the team back together?
Yeah, so again, I'm big on role modeling. So commit to being the leader you want everyone else to be first. So do your own work. But again, I think creating a culture of open transparency, and if you've had children, you'll know that you want your child to always be honest. You want them to tell you stuff. But if you yell at them for telling you stuff, have a guess what? By the time they're 15, they're not going to tell you anything. So sometimes you have to zip and just listen to the story. I know I've sat there and gone, oh my God, I want to kill you. And then just had to add, thank you for telling me. Oh, excuse me. Now it's the same with staff. Sometimes you have to just, went down the wrong way.
That's all right. Take a minute.
The messy middle bit. So yeah, the same with staff. Sometimes you have to just allow them to be honest about mistakes so you can solve the problem.
Yes.
So it's like I've changed voices there then. Yeah, no, all good. So yeah, I think that's it. But being honest, being open to hearing, and again, self-worth as a leader, because you have to be willing to receive criticism openly.
Yeah.
And new ideas. And I'm big on people being solution orientated. Like, it doesn't matter to me if the solution isn't the right solution. But as a leader, I always say, don't come to me and whinge unless you've got a solution.
I like that.
You whinge if you've got a solution with it. But if you're just going to whinge at me, have a guess what? Don't want to know.
Oh, dear.
And again, I think I've always funds are high value for me. So for me, a workplace still needs, and you can still be highly professional and have fun. I think as adults, we forget we're allowed to have fun, because when you've got a fun environment, people are going to be just more open and transparent, and, it's hard for people to be negative if you've created a better environment. And then, if there is someone negative, sack them quickly. There you go. That's it. And
get out of there.
And especially what I see all the time, and I know it comes up quite a bit now, as people are realizing, is it's often the highest performer who can be the most toxic. And the reason they stay in a company is because they are the highest performer. However, the most destructive thing to a company is often a toxic high performer.
Yeah.
And I think people are starting to understand that now, that just because they're making the most sales or whatever, the cost is still far outweighing what their achievements as an individual are.
And for those individuals, sometimes people feel trapped in this toxic workplace. They might be working next to this high performer or something like that. What do you say to those people when they feel like they have no power to change that? What advice do you have for that person that feels trapped in the toxic workplace?
Yeah, so we can only ever be responsible for ourselves. So again, if you're doing the best job you can do, to your capacity, because everyone's got a capacity too, and you might need more training. So always ask the question of your immediate leaders, what they think you could do better, or any solutions you might have. But now where
So we're fun.
Look, I would rather pack shelves at Woolies than be in a management position where I wasn't enjoying it or it was toxic. And I guess that comes down to, knowing yourself and knowing what you want your life to be, and what drives you. Because you'll always, we do live in a lucky country. I know it's tough at the moment and everything like that, but we do live in a country where there are options, and back yourself. Back yourself that, I've just been through a huge challenge, but I've had to back myself and go, well, you'll get through this and then something great will happen. Just stay true to what you believe in yourself.
For sure. I have noticed, particularly in women, that when they're in a shitty situation, whether that's at work or in a friendship or a relationship, when they've put a certain amount of time in, then they want to get that ROI, the return on their investment of their time and their energy, which can keep them a bit stuck. What you just said you were going through a bit of a challenging time. What is the stuff that comes up for you that makes you go, oh, I need to pull this particular thing out of my toolkit and just solve this little issue? Have you got some little indicators for yourself when you're going through a tough time that really tells you how your mental health is tracking and what you need to do right now today to take care of that?
Yeah. So and my mental health can track really badly, really quickly. So and this is why I say to people, I've got a toolbox of things I do. Does that mean it always works for me? No. So sometimes I've got to dig the deepest to get out. I would say I had a relationship that I ended a little while ago, and that came down to self-worth, and getting to a point going, I deserve someone who's committed to me, who loves me, who treats me respectfully. This person did. There was nothing majorly thing. It was just more, no, I deserve better than that. So again, and as much as I might have loved the person, I'm still not going to put that above my own self-worth. And, you know, and then work-wise, look, I mean, I bought a franchise. So anyone out there looking at buying a franchise, don't buy a franchise. There you go.
There's some sound advice. It's hard work.
Yeah. Funnily enough, when I was business coaching for 5 years with the Aaron Sansoni group, I used to tell my clients all the time, don't buy a franchise, because, you know, the strategies we used for scaling didn't really fit within the model of a franchise, because you are limited, you know, to what you can do under whatever the franchise is. So a lot of those, you know, partnerships or collaborations or anything else that you might use to grow your business don't necessarily work with a franchise. But me knowing better and different, bought into a franchise with my son. Anyway, it went really pear-shaped. So a lot of that stuff that happened in that franchise outside of my control has been very costly, traumatic experience, are still a little bit ongoing. But I'm a bit of I'll fight. I'm a bit of a sense of justice person. So I get a lot of relief sending emails off sometimes. Yeah. And again, that comes back to that whole get it out, have a vent. If you're in a situation where you're struggling, have a vent to someone safe. Right? You don't have to look unhinged all over social media or anything like that, because that'll probably come back to bite you. But even then, you know, some days it's whatever. But venting, like swearing, I swear like a trooper. So that gets me through a few things. Good friends, having good friends who you can vent to is really important. But again, I'll always come back to exercise. And because I was going through perimenopause or at the end of menopause, and then I had a heart condition just coming that I've just had tested, but I think that's stress, but it's all things like I had to minimize, well, my exercise is minimized. So then I'm frustrated because I can't do what I was doing. But I've had to go, but I can still do exercise. So Caroline, don't get caught up in what you can't do, get caught up in what you can do. You know, so I still exercise most days, something. And then slowly just build myself back up again. So again, like we go through dips. So the biggest thing is, just again, you know, the doona days. If you get challenges, have your doona day. Surround yourself with good people, I think is really important. And look, sometimes, but as in my franchise situation, sometimes you think they're good people and they're not. But again, I think it's accept that life has shitty bits. Just accept it. I think, you know, for me, it was like during COVID, you know, I had a gym at COVID on the Queensland border. So my gym was inside New South Wales, but my gate was Queensland. So you can just imagine how well that worked. Anyway, and right through COVID, I used to just say, do you know what? Things like this have been happening in the world for centuries, you know, forever. Life is challenging. And the sooner we accept that life is full of challenges, the more resilient we can be to when the challenges occur, because they don't have an expectation. I like to say, I learnt this in rehab actually. Expectation equals resentment in credit. So
that's an interesting one.
Yes. And I guess that comes down to like that whole Buddhist belief of non-attachment. If you're not attached to something, or you don't have an expectation of something, you can't really get that disappointed. But often it's when we expect something to happen that we then get all emotional when it doesn't. And again, then that mindset of, I actually see challenges in a really positive way, no matter how, you know, like I have my meltdowns, don't get me wrong, I've had plenty of meltdowns in the past 12 months. But my overall belief is that everything happens for the right reasons, and every challenge is an opportunity to grow as a person. Every challenge is an opportunity to open doors that are going to be even better. So I would say to anyone who's in that situation, there's red flags, always know that there's something better. You are 110% responsible for your life, even the shitty things. No one's coming to save you.
Yes.
And even when the shittiest of things happen because of other people, you're still responsible for how you react. And I think that's the biggest fear people have, is accepting that type of responsibility. The reality is, when you take that responsibility, you are free from everything. There is so much freedom going, yep, my mistake, I own that. Okay, now what can I do about it?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not beat myself up, is to start seeing the opportunities and the solutions to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Accountability is such a big piece.
Yes. Yeah. And again, I think that comes, again, it all still comes back to self-worth, because the more we accept ourselves for who we are and fully believe in ourselves for who we are, the good and the bad, then the easier it is to go, yeah, my mistake, I'm okay with that. But it's when we have that insecurity or low self-worth, it's so confronting if someone challenges us or we make a mistake, because that then we go into overdrive on trying to defend ourselves or justify or blame other people. And that's not freedom.
Yes. Not everything means that you're a shit person.
No.
Oh dear. I appreciate you sharing so candidly. I just love that. That's one of my favorite. I think it's one of my favorite parts of a woman, when they can just be like, you know what, this is me. And I just love that. So thank you so much. I have this exercise that I do at my networking events called the Brunch Club. And there are some silver cards that have some icebreaker questions, or some connection questions is what I like to call them. So I've got 3 for you. The first one is, I know, it's a fun game. It's so fun. And the thing that I love about these is that everybody interprets the questions differently. So I'm 8 years into hosting these events, and I've had them pretty much for the whole time. And at my last event, someone answered a question that comes out a lot in a way that I have never heard it answered before, which was just, it blows my mind. I just love it. So my first question for you is, what do you want to be known or remembered for?
For being a kind person.
Beautiful. I love that. So simple, but so difficult at the same time. Number 2, you can gift everyone in the world an important life skill instantly. What do you choose and why?
I'm going to gift everyone self-worth, because with that, they can live their best version of their life.
Beautiful. I love that. What a great gift. And last question, would you rather be a genius and know everything, or be amazing at any activity you tried?
I would rather, because a true genius knows that they don't know everything. Yeah, I think I would just like to be amazing at everything I tried. Like, I love just doing random things and giving it a go. So yes, that one.
Super fun. It's like, you know that you can't fail, so why not?
Exactly.
So good.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much. Okay, and where can people connect with you?
So you can connect with me at my website, www.carolinebellenger.com, or my socials, which is Caroline Bellenger Official, Insta and Facebook. I do have TikTok. I don't do too many dances, but I do dance sometimes.
I love that.
Yeah.
Why not? Shake it out. That's so good. Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. It's been wonderful. Is there anything else that you'd like to add before we wrap up?
Just to everyone out there, just do whatever makes you really happy. Know what that happiness comes from, and then just follow it with all your heart.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. I hope you loved this episode. If you did, please remember to share it with somebody else who you think will enjoy it too. I would love it if you leave a review, which helps me reach more people just like you. And don't forget to come and join me on Instagram at empower.health. Thank you, darling.